Mario Cantu, thank you for being on the podcast. What do you think of the set?
Hey, it looks great. Looks amazing. I mean, I'm just kind of in shock that, we have this type of culture, this type of artwork in something down here. It literally looks like we're somewhere in California or Austin. The vibe is amazing.
Awesome, and I really like what you're wearing. Tell us about your outfit.
Yeah, so I got styled today, and, we have a little bit of Louis V, right? And I was basically, we have, I put on some pants, got some
Super Mario.
Super Mario socks going on, right?
Nice.
So, it's my alter ego. That's since
With
I
the
was a kid.
shades, with
With the shades. I was actually born in 85, and that's the year that Mario actually first got released.
Really? Oh,
So,
wow. Did you play a lot?
yeah, I played a lot as a kid. I was into gaming, different things like that. But, I use it as an alter ego because a lot of times, things, situations kind of seem impossible. And, it's a good way to me saying, hey, look, I can do anything, I'm Super Mario.
Nice.
Yeah,
Hey, and I love it because it's your own name in the video game.
yeah.
Nice.
So,
So what do you think of the place, Backdoor Modern Vintage?
Backdoor Modern Vintage, as I'm walking through it, it really feels like, I'm in an art gallery. When you look at the paintings and just everything in general, the styles, the clothing, it just feels like, wow, like this is totally different. This is something that is special. I kind of get that vibe.
You're literally popping. Look at the fireworks going on behind you. I don't know if you could see, but
Yeah, I could see the reflection in the back, so it's kind of blinking.
you look like the Wizard of Oz.
I'm channeling that energy, because
Nice.
that's what I do.
So what would you say your title would be? The owner of Solrex?
I'm the co-founder and CEO of Solrex, basically. So I am the owner of Solrex. When somebody asks me, well, what do you do? I say I'm the owner. So I love it. I've been in energy for a long time, and I'm the type of person that loves to give energy. So it just naturally attracted. I got attracted to the energy, right?
I mean, your future's bright with those sunglasses.
Yeah, yeah. It's always sunny in Solrex, right? So it's awesome. I love what I do. I'm very passionate about what I do. I love to help people, and I think this is a space that really needs a lot of attention and being able to help people and educate people. It's just awesome.
So let me go back in time with you a bit. You mentioned that you loved video games when you were a kid. Did you grow up knowing that you wanted to pursue entrepreneurship, or was that even something in your vocabulary that you knew what it meant? Or how was it growing up as Mario? Where were you born? Tell me about your background.
So I was actually born in Mission, and I lived most of my life a little bit west of Mission in a small town, Penitas. So I went to school, La Jolla, but more than anything, I think I learned a little bit of entrepreneurship early on. My grandfather worked crazy hours. That's who I got my work ethic from. He was going in like at 8 o'clock in the morning, didn't leave till like 9 o'clock at night sometimes. He worked for the school district as a supervisor. So a lot of times I would go out there with him, but I always knew that he had something else going on. He actually had his own little mini business where he'd help out people make kind of like tombstones. So he would actually like, I don't know what it's called. If it's he'd get an easel.
So
right?
that would be his second job.
That was his second job. So he was like an entrepreneur on top of, he was working his full-time job and working part-time on his business. And that's really where I picked it up on. Mm-hmm. I said, hey, well, I match, I try to mimic his work ethic because I would say that I work a lot. Mm-hmm. And I started kind of picking up on that and really fell in love with, working with my hands and getting in there. And one thing he always taught me is, to always kind of like lead by example and never be afraid to roll up your sleeves. And that's something that I do day in and day out. You know, in my business, I'm always going out there talking to people, trying to make a friend. You know, that's really the way I look at it. It's like I'm trying to make friends as I'm going out there talking to people, networking, talking about my company and talking about the things that I do as an entrepreneur. And you know, I'd love to give back and help people as well.
I
So
love that. And tell me a little bit more about. Uh, Obviously, you were how old when you were helping your grandpa with the tombstones?
maybe like 6 or 7 years old.
So, what was it like working with him in something like that? Because, you know, it's not very common that someone works where like someone passes away and then they have to carve their name and their
Yeah.
legacy on a tombstone. Like looking back now, what was that like? Like, did your grandpa talk to you about what it meant when someone passes away? Did you like?
Yeah, I had a really good understanding of life and death actually. 'Cause a little bit before that, I was actually in a very severe accident where I honestly felt I passed away. You know, and you know they hit my mom's vehicle. I was in the front seat. My grandmother practically flew out of the car, but she survived. My mom survived. I survived as well. I don't know. So I always thought that there's a reason why I'm still here, you know, and I need to fulfill that, whatever it is, my purpose. You know, that's why I'm still around, you know, and that's really what I thought. But I really learned a lot about that, about life and death, you know, by helping my grandfather. And, you know, as crazy as I got older, I understood, you know, that it was very important. You know, I watch a lot of motivational stuff, and they always say, hey, you know, on a tombstone, the most important thing in a tombstone is not when you're born or when you die, it's the line in between, right? And as a kid, I remember helping my grandfather actually make that line in between, you know,
He
so
was like, "Don't do the words; you're gonna
yeah,
misspell them."
yeah. So I would help him out, you know, and I think that's the most important thing in life is understanding that, you know, yeah, there's a day that you're born, there's a day that you die. So I understand life and death very, very well. And I pass that on to anybody that I talk to, my relatives, and be like, hey, one day I'm not going to be here, but I want to leave a mark. I want to be able to say, hey, I made a difference in my life and in other people's lives, and I touch people's lives and pass on like a legacy or, you know, or just say, hey, look, this was a person of importance, or this was a person that gave back and did everything he could in his power to.
So, can we touch base on a little bit about what you mentioned about how you felt that you died for a couple of minutes?
Yeah,
Do you remember what that was like?
I do, and I hardly tell this story, um, but basically what happened is we're driving a small like 4-cylinder car. My mom, I'm very stubborn as a kid, right? You know, I'm very persistent. I think that's what helped me in sales too. You know, being persistent and overcoming different things. But so I'm telling my mom we're driving HEB, and I'm telling her, hey, I want to go in the front seat, and you know, I'm nagging and nagging and nagging to says, you know what? It's okay, just go in the front seat, you know. And that's the nice version of it, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I fell asleep in the front seat. I didn't have a seatbelt on, and some of a dually truck, big truck, crosses a red light,
Oh wow.
and we're driving, literally hits like my side of the door.
Oh snap.
So
Did you have any like broken bones or anything like that?
nothing happened to me. The doctor was amazed. Like, you know, what's crazy is that as this is happening, my grandmother's like kind of screaming, and she says, like, basic in Spanish, says, te va a pegar la troca, te va a pegar la troca, Sandra. And she goes, no, man, no, man. And all of a sudden you do hear that accident.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But the reason I think I didn't eject out of the car is because my grandmother reached over, right, and grabbed me. But when she did that, she kind of like slid over the back seat, and from the back seat, she hit the windshield.
Oh wow.
But somehow she protected me, and nothing happened to me. Well, for the most part, I felt like I knocked out. I did knock out. And I tell people that there is a heaven because I felt like there was an ascension happening as all of this is going on. And
It wasn't like a regular dream, like when you go to sleep.
no, it felt real. And as a kid, I mean, my parents were religious, but they're not the religious type where they would attend church every single weekend, stuff like that. But they teach you, hey, the good and the bad,
Yeah,
things
yeah.
like that.
They had a good grasp on the
Yeah,
fundamentals.
on the fundamentals, right? So I would say the they weren't like persistent in driving me towards religion or things like that, but I knew a little bit about it. I actually became very intrigued because I think as a little kid I was still very like a lover's boy,
Hmm.
and
What
there's
does
a
that mean, lover's boy?
yeah, I was very like
Mujeriego or what?
I wouldn't say like mujeriego, but I just was really, even as a little kid, like 7, 8 years old, I was like, I saw women like very like beautiful, like,
Yes, yes, yes.
and and
How old were you?
when this happened,
Yeah.
well, I would say like I was probably like 7 years old, like
Oh,
six,
wow.
7 years old. But I would say more than anything, I had an understanding of I as I attended church, I remember the summer before it happened.
Mm-hmm.
There's something called Vacation Bible Study,
Mm-hmm.
and people
Oh,
from
so
up
you
north.
saw the little girls coming in?
Yeah, so the people from up north are coming, from other churches, and I lived in the little town that we lived in. It's like
Yeah.
everybody was Mexican,
So when you met someone that was
brand new.
different, you
Yeah,
were
it
like,
intrigued me.
whoa.
I was like, wow. So it piqued my interest, right?
Yeah.
So I started learning about it and became, something that I looked into, and so I started learning about it, going to classes, and they also had raspas, which I liked,
Yeah,
But
yeah.
during the summer,
They had everything.
they had everything that I wanted. They played sports, but long story short, I mean, when it comes down to it, I learned about, like religion, like about God, and so as this is going on, I feel like an ascension.
Yeah.
I get to a place where I feel like there's bright lights, like I say, hey,
Like
don't
right
go.
now.
Yeah, like right now, But they always say, hey, don't go into the light, right? Now, I didn't know that as a kid, but as this is going on, and I'm saying to myself, I'm not saying it out loud, but I'm thinking in my head, I go, hey, look, if I died, I want to go back
Yeah.
because I miss my grandmother, I miss my
Yeah.
grandfather, I miss my mom, and and I'm saying that to myself. I'm saying that to myself, like, hey, I want to go back. I want to go back. I want to go back. And it's very beautiful. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. So I felt like I kind of did cross over,
Mm-hmm.
and there were people there that not that I could see their face, but it looked like really bright lights.
Yeah.
And then there's some like shadows in the front of the light.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, come on, mijito, vente pa acá. Like,
Yeah.
somos tu familia,
Yeah.
like in Spanish.
Yeah.
And but I said, no, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. So
They were like, come to the front seat.
yeah, like come over, like they're like kneeling down. I felt the warmth and the love, so I knew it's almost like if I knew them, but I didn't really know them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I said, no, I don't want this, I don't want this, and then boom, lights go out,
Mm-hmm.
everything's black again,
Yeah.
and little by little, like I'm hearing sound, like distant in the distance, like I'm hearing sirens in the background. I'm hearing like crying and screaming, but it's slowly starting to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's full force. Like I hear everything. Somebody's touching my wrist, and they're like, "I feel a pulse. I feel a pulse."
Yeah.
Right? And I I couldn't move. I was like, I don't know if it was like in a coma at that time or what. I was passed out, knocked out.
Mm-hmm.
But I told myself like I need to get up, and I was trying to move, but I couldn't, right? So I'm hearing my grandmother, my mom crying, and other, like I guess the nurses or the EMTs that are right by my side, and I ended up waking up in the hospital.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so maybe like a couple hours later, I woke up, and to the doctors, they couldn't believe it. They're like, I don't even know how you actually hear.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So then that helped you kind of like form that tough skin when you were working with your grandpa.
Yeah, I mean, it really made me understand life and death at a really young age. You know, that it's a part of life, and we have to cherish the time that we have because we don't know when
Mm-hmm.
that date is happening for each and every one of us, right? So, you know, I try to enjoy life as much as possible, you know, and kind of while I am kind of like a visionary, like as an
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur and stuff, thinking further ahead, I
Yeah.
also have to kind of stabilize myself and say, hey, enjoy the moment,
Of
enjoy
course.
the journey, you know, and things like that. So, yeah, because you know, if you're living too far in the
Yeah.
future, sometimes
You're not present.
you're not present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, was there any moments where you were helping your grandpa and you were like thinking about what your legacy was going to be? Like, man, like, because you mentioned that it doesn't matter what year you were born or what year you pass away, what matters is the line in the middle.
Yeah.
Were you ever like thinking about, like, man, I want to have this sort of legacy when you were like carving
You
the.
know, I don't know if I ever thought of it like kind of like that, but I just did know that I felt like ever since that accident that I was destined for something, you know, something to do something great. And I think that's kind of, like you said, it gave me that skin where, you know, I've felt multiple times in different things, but you know, I that's always in the back of my mind. Hey, there's something great that you're gonna do.
Yeah.
There's something great that you're gonna
And
do.
also because a lot of young people think they're invincible. So if you're at a young age already like knowing the basics of life, which is life and death, I think that might have, I don't know, given you a bit of an edge, maybe.
Yeah, it did, you know, and I think more than anything, it made me realize that hey, you need to kind of give it your all, regardless of what your scenario is. You know, you hear stories all the time from people going from rags to riches, or people who are homeless that that became something, and I just told myself as a kid like I'm gonna do something great, you know, and that's always been my mentality regardless of if people doubt me or anything. I just said, "Hey, I'm destined for something more."
Of course. So when you were growing up and going to school, did you already like have a plan of like what you wanted to do to achieve this greatness that you talk about?
Well, not so much. I let my grandparents kind of influence me as to
Mm-hmm.
what path I wanted to take, and more than anything, it was because of the conditions that we lived in, because we grew up very humble, right?
Yeah.
So they always told me, hey, you need to become an attorney or a lawyer. You need to become a doctor or some career path that's going to be a steady income, and uh, and so I strived for that, right? Going into to coming out of high school. I mean, I was a pretty good student, even though I didn't come across as like as the perfect student. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
was played a lot of sports and stuff like that, but but I was actually pretty smart. It's just people didn't think I was as smart as I actually was. But
Oh,
going into college, I went to college seeking to become a doctor, but it
mm-hmm.
wasn't really the path that I wanted to take. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
path that they kind of instilled into me, like, hey, this is what you need to do.
So what made you kind of like be like, wait, hold on, I'm not gonna follow that path? Was there like a
There was a,
inciting incident that
there
happened?
was an incident. So 2 years, I'm a sophomore in college, and my grandmother, which is a person that I wanted to fulfill that dream for, becoming a doctor,
Mm-hmm.
passes away.
Oh wow.
So I'm going to school. I'm giving it everything I got, and then it's like the person that I really wanted to do this for is no longer here.
Yeah.
So that's where it's kind of like, it sidetracked me. It's kind of like I hit a wall. It's like, hey, what do I do from here on moving forward? And I thought to myself, I've always loved, like, I always wanted to to do something like in Wall Street, like,
Mm-hmm.
investing or like that's always caught my attention. I took an economics class,
Mm-hmm.
and
Like Super Mario collecting coins.
yeah, collecting coins, right? And that always caught my attention. So anytime that somebody would talk about business or investing and stuff like that, I was like, yeah, it's like, hey, let me get in on that. Let me hear a little bit of what
Yeah.
your ideas and stuff.
Yeah.
you know. But it's not until I met some of the people that I know today and started getting into those circles that I started really learning about,
Of
different
course.
things.
What do you think of that line that says you are the five people that you surround yourself with?
I think that is the law of association, right? So you are the average of the five people that you hang around with, right? So I think that's 100% true, because when I was younger, I was hanging around with, different people, partying scene. So that's who I was,
Yeah.
right? And as I started maturing and talking to people, about business and different things, is when I really started kind of elevating myself and really growing my knowledge into that. So now my circles is pretty small. I most of my inner circle is people who have been investing for a long time, business owners, entrepreneurs, things like that, and I like to study a lot of people who are very
Yeah.
successful.
I mean, you had an audiobook in your car the other day.
Yeah. I love audiobooks. We drive a lot. In sales, you're driving. I've always been told that you could actually, if you read a book or if you're doing an audiobook, as you're driving, we drive so much that you could actually, pretty much learn any topic, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm real big on audiobooks and leadership books, and the book that I was listening to was Extreme Ownership, and it's just how to be a better leader. How to lead people, and that's so important. Because you have to be a leader within your home. You have to be a leader within your community, leader within your work, and leadership is so important. So if you learn how to do that, that's how I think you really make a difference, because see some of the greatest leaders like Martin Luther King. You have people leading industries like Steve Jobs, and those are the people that I like to read about and learn about, because it's just things that they did change the world forever.
So you have to be a leader in every facet of your life.
Yeah.
So let's say someone is, hanging out with people that not might be, pursuing their goal. So if you hang around those people, you might get distracted. So what would be your recommendation to, like, say someone who wants to change the five people around them? Do they like go to networking events? How would you, give
Yeah.
advice to this person?
So the first and foremost is find out what you want to do first and foremost, right? Find out what you want to be, what direction you want to take, and then find a mentor. I think that's the best way to kind of, a lot of times, we hang around people, and, unfortunately, some people are like crabs in a bucket, right? They see you kind of ascending, and what's the first thing that they're going to, they try to pull you back into those habits. So I think if you find a mentor, that mentor's job is to help pull you up, right? To pull you out of those situations, to kind of teach you the ropes. So now, it is somewhat difficult to find mentorship, because a lot of times people are busy.
Yeah.
So you got to get creative, find a way to become valuable to that person that you're trying to get mentored by. And really, I think that's the best route. So find a mentor, and you say, hey, where can I find a mentor? It's, yeah, you're perfectly right. Go to networking events. So if you're looking to study business, go to business networking events. If you love art or some sort of photography, find networking events of people who are already doing what you love, and make that your network.
Right. And you mentioned that you need to know what you want. What about for those that are like, I don't know what I want? Like, what would be those initial steps to,
Try
like,
everything and anything, man. I think that's really what it comes down to. And um, you know, when when you try multiple things, you'll be able to figure out whether you're passionate about it or not. You can't be afraid to fail. And I think that's what, at first, that was one of my weaknesses. I was kind of scared to fail. Because in school you get taught, it's like, hey, you have to pass your class. You want to be an A student. It's a lot of, I think, a lot of programming, really, more than anything. But
Yeah.
some of the best entrepreneurs are some of the biggest failures in education, right? You think of, like, there's people who've dropped out of college. Like
Yeah.
Elon Musk and Bill Gates, and multi-billionaires now. So
So you're saying, like, because of school and how they were very like, oh, you have to pass the test, you can't fail, that kind of like forced us to think about being afraid of failing versus
Exactly.
how an entrepreneur sometimes, in order to get to a certain level or a certain point, they have to do a lot of failing and 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 learning from that experience to get to that
Exactly.
point, right?
Yeah, so I always say fail forward, right? So if you fail and you fail forward, you're one. You say I'm 5'6". I'm now by falling forward, I'm 5 feet 6 inches closer
Yeah.
to my goal, right?
Yeah.
So and I really think that was the biggest hurdle I had to face because I thought, I'm failing, I'm failing, I'm failing. It sometimes makes you have to work on your mindset because it makes you think that you're a failure, but each failure or each no is getting you closer to a yes. And I think as an entrepreneur, you want to fail as much as possible, as fast as possible, because you only have to be right one time to make it.
Yeah.
You think of Ray Kroc, the owner of McDonald's. This guy was door-to-door salesman. He did a bunch of stuff,
In that
that
movie, he was
failed.
selling the
Yeah,
milkshake.
the milkshakes and he talked to the McDonald's
The
owners,
brothers.
yeah, and just his hustle, his ambition, and stuff like that led to the empire that we know today as McDonald's. But he failed multiple times over a long period of time, and now it doesn't matter because his legacy is set in stone forever.
And now going back to what you said to find a mentor, what does a mentor have to have in order to be considered a good mentor? Or I guess what's the definition of a mentor? And if you can include
Yeah,
both of those.
yeah. I think really what it comes down to is, mentor is somebody that already is where you want to be in life. I think,
Like a reflection of your
like a
future self.
reflection of your future self, and I think, while maybe you might not want to be 100% like them, but they have a majority of the qualities that you're looking for yourself, and they've already navigated through the area,
Obstacles.
the obstacles. And the real goal of a good mentor is to navigate you through the obstacles that you're going to go through and avoiding the pitfalls that
Like
you're
a detour.
yeah, like a detour. It's the fastest way from point A to point B.
Like a cheat code. Like Super
Exactly.
Mario.
Yeah, like a cheat code. Yeah. So it's like they're pretty much like teleporting you to the fastest route.
You're getting that mushroom.
Yeah, yeah. You're getting that mushroom and those superpowers. It's really that's what they are. If you have a good mentor, now mentors can change too. Like say you start off with one mentor and they led you to a certain point, and now you're looking for somebody to take you to the next level.
Yeah.
So you get another mentor and so forth and so forth, right? So I think really what it comes down to is just finding what you want to do, finding that person that's already done it, and then and
Following the steps.
following the steps that are necessary. It's a blueprint for success, right? So
Yeah. So you consider yourself an entrepreneur, right?
yes.
So then my question is why should someone consider entrepreneurship like as a serious matter? Because some might think or might be of the thinking that it's a lot of hard work and it's a lot of failing. Like, why should people go that route instead of going, let's say, maybe the regular like attorney or doctor or
traditional way?
whatever, the traditional way? Why should someone, or I guess what would be the difference of thinking or of mindset between someone who goes a traditional route versus someone who goes the entrepreneurial route? Is there like a difference between the two?
I mean, I think there is I think an entrepreneur is somebody who thinks outside the box. They really push the needle forward, in innovation. And while both career paths are great, I think that an entrepreneur's goal is to really to innovate, to make something impactful. You have like Elon Musk, SpaceX that's in our backyard. Basically, he's like, hey, his vision, I'm gonna go to Mars. Like that's an entrepreneur for you. Like they almost think the impossible. They're not logical. They're so far outside the box that they believe. People believe most of the times that they're crazy, but it's because they're crazy enough to think that they could do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the magic part about being an entrepreneur, that it's just, yes, it's a lot of failure. it's not for the weak-minded. Really, you have to train your mind to accept it and to thrive on failure, like using that as your fuel, and 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 just knowing that eventually, putting one foot in front of the other, you're going to get to the goal.
Yeah.
You might deviate a lot, right? It's not a straight path. You're going to have highs and lows and peaks and valleys, and you're probably going to swerve along the way and make some bad decisions, or might a lot of failure, but that's a part of the journey, because at the end of the day, it's like, hey, you reach your goal, you're on top of that mountain, and you look back and appreciate the journey that you went through. And I think that's the magical thing, because I think back about the person I was 10 years ago, and the person that I am today is the person that person was praying about, right? Like, so it's crazy, and now thinking like, what's going to be the next 10 years? What am I going to do in the next 10 years? How many people am I going to impact, or what am I going to do to, like, it's awesome just thinking that.
Can you tell me a bit about the people that you impact today? Like, what are you doing to help solve their issues, their problems? Like, can you talk about that?
Yeah, so basically at Solrex, it's Solrex Energy. It's a renewable energy company. We're focused on renewable energy like solar power. So one of the biggest issues that we have today is, we think back to 2021, February, pretty much like Valentine's Day, we had that big outage where the grid went down.
It was really cold.
It was really cold, right? A lot of people without electricity, so many, I had a cousin who lives in Austin, and she was basically shoveling snow into her tub, allowing it to melt just to have drinking water.
Wow.
And that's an extreme situation. So I was already in energy before, and I said, hey, well, what can we do better to help this, or try to prevent this from happening again? And the way that everything works is that right now we're so dependent on this electricity grid, we think nothing's going to happen to it, but in reality, it's really fragile.
Well, what is an electricity grid for those that might be hearing this for the first time?
So basically,
and can you explain, like, what happened during the freeze?
Yeah, so basically the demand for power got so high because it was really cold, so people turned up their thermostats, and we're drawing power from these electricity plants. They couldn't handle the stress. So because of that stress, equipment started to break down, and eventually it shut down and caused for us not to have any power, right? So how this electricity works is, they have certain plants that transfer power, that create power, and they get transferred to transfer the power, and then it goes to your house. So because of these plants that they couldn't work anymore, we're basically out of power. And the crazy thing is that Texas is the only state that works by itself, that has its own power grid. So.
Oh, wow.
Every other state in the United States is linked up to another power grid from another state. So there's a West Coast power grid, and there's an East Coast power grid.
So what would be the benefits and the bad things about having your own independent power, like Texas?
Like Texas, right? Everything's bigger in Texas. I love to be I love being a Texan, right? We're very prideful in our state, and but I think the biggest downfall was the fact that we couldn't. Since we're not connected with the other grids, they couldn't feed us power.
Got it. So then, as a person who is in that solar industry, what would be the biggest change when someone goes solar? Like, would they experience something like, if there's another freeze, would their electricity not go out?
Yeah. So what happens when somebody goes solar is they actually become their own little power plant, right? So think of it like little power plants being turned on in certain areas.
On top of every house.
Yeah, on top of every house. It's like the more houses that have solar panels, the more power is being produced, and the less that we're going to stress the big power plants, right? So, but we get asked this a lot of the times, like, hey, am I going to have power when the electricity goes out? Well, the only way to have power is if you have somewhere to store the power, right? So you would need a battery, or you would need a generator or something that would help power up your home. But solar basically is helping you become a producer of electricity as opposed to just a consumer of electricity, right?
And it kind of reminds me of that quote that says, give a man a fish and he eats for a day. teach a man to fish and he'll eat for a lifetime. I feel
Yeah.
like if you become your own power plant, like your own house has
Yeah.
that capability, it's like almost like if you're teaching that person or that person is teaching themselves how to be independent and maintain that capability forever, no?
Yeah, definitely. And it's a part of the solution. As an entrepreneur, you're thinking of ways to solve big problems, right? Find a way to solve big problems. You make a really good living, right? And one of the biggest problems is really our grid, right? The electricity. We take it for granted. If you go to any third world country, I have friends who are originally from Africa. A friend of mine who's from Ghana, and he's a doctor. He came here with the American dream, became a doctor, got his doctor's degree, became a pharmacist. He has two doctorate degrees, and he loves solar.
Yeah.
He actually wants to take it back to his home country because he says that in his home country, electricity is only consistent for 2 to 4 hours, and then it turns off. Right? So imagine if our grid got to that level because we're not doing our part to kind of
Right.
give back, right? And it is possible for us to be in that situation if we don't do something about it.
So, taking yourself out of the equation and being objective, if someone wants to go solar, what recommendations would you give this person?
I think more than anything is you have to know what your usage is. I think and I talked about this in the past. Is like I think in the future we're all going to need to have solar because rates are increasing. California is like at 45, 55 cents per kilowatt.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous, right? And I feel like that wave of that trend of high electricity bills is moving east, right? So it's going from California, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, and eventually we'll get to Texas. But I tell everybody is you have to educate yourself. If you go out and purchase a car, you tend to do a little bit of research on it, right? And I ask that you do the same for solar. Know which company you're talking to. Know more than anything what you're actually buying into, right? And some things to study is learn how much you're using. There's a simple formula that will show you how many panels you'll need if you're willing to do a little bit of research. Go on YouTube.
Yeah.
Nowadays YouTube is like the best thing ever. I'm a visual learner,
yeah.
so if I want to learn something, go on YouTube. Hey, how many solar panels does my house need? And then they show you a little formula. Okay, well, solar panels, so you do your research.
Yeah. And we've even done a video where you talk to some of these homeowners and they talk about their experience. So
Yeah.
they could also go to our page.
Yeah, they could go to our page, and get the testimonials from our page, from our social media, and really get to experience it from somebody else's point of view. A lot of times we are depending on customer reviews and things like that, and I think if you do a good job, you're obviously going to get more people, and I think that's where we pride ourselves on is just doing a good job, and doing the best that we can to help solve that problem for them.
Of course. And then, of course, you're someone who goes into the field and is actually there, like shoulder to shoulder with some of your employees, or mostly everyone, right? What has been the biggest lesson from, like going to door and getting a bunch of no's? Like, has that increased your skin, like toughness even more? Like, what does that do for a person?
I mean, I'm a big believer in actually going out there and being at the front of the line. I think a lot of my family was in the military, so you always lead from the front. Get into the trenches, roll up your sleeves. It's very easy to give an order that you're not willing to do yourself, but I'm willing to do the smallest jobs for the company. I'm willing just as much as I'm willing to do on the high end or the top end of the company. I mean, I won't tell somebody to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. And I think that's just something my grandfather instilled into me. Like, just go in there and get it done, So as I go out there, I've always been told, I listen to Grant Cardone and some of these really great salespeople, entrepreneurs. And one of the things that I learned is that these guys weren't door to door. Grant Cardone's like a real estate guru, multi-billionaire now,
Yeah.
and he started door to door.
Yeah, some of his videos sometimes he posts on YouTube. He literally like has someone recording him as he's like going to like find a new property, and like that's his first time
Yeah,
like going there.
and it's not it. What's his Jamie Foxx?
Oh yeah.
Jamie Foxx. He said 2 years knocking on doors is the equivalent of 4-year degree in communications.
Oh wow.
So
The actor Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx,
Did he do that
yeah,
when he was young?
yeah, he did it when he was young.
Oh wow.
And that's what I think, by doing that, you're going through something that is very difficult. It's very hard to be told no, but I looked at it more like as a game or as a, every no gets me closer to a yes, and I'm just really going out there and talking to people, trying to make friends, when I always tell my team, it's like, hey, we're just out here trying to make friends.
Of course, yeah.
Right. And if you really look at it like that, it's pretty simple, and if somebody gets mad or somebody gets upset, it's like, hey, maybe they're having a bad day. I'm not going to take it personal. It's just not their day. But I go out there and I really love talking to people and learning about people. I was with somebody here recently, and he was just telling me his life story. He was in the military and how he came down here. I just love to interact with people. I think more than anything.
And you mentioned when you were younger, you played video games, and now you kind of like see life as a video game. Like, what's the biggest cheat code, would you say? Or I mean, we mentioned mentors, but I guess not cheat code. Like, what's the biggest a parallel that you see between like life pursuing a goal and like video games like Super Mario?
Yeah, never giving up. I think really that's what it comes down to. There's different levels, with games, and there's different levels in life, and I was told when I was starting as you break whatever new level, there's a new devil. So just know that there's going to be challenges once you hit a different marker, right? It's just like the game. It gets harder and harder and harder as you go by. When you get to the end of the game, it's going to be the hardest thing you ever accomplish.
You learn how to jump over the turtles, and then later there's also fireballs coming at you, and then you learn that, and there's like moving doors, and you're underwater.
You have to be versatile, and everything that you do, you have to be versatile and be able to and to handle anything that's thrown at you. And I think being versatile is the cheat code, because you have to adapt quickly, and you get knocked down, you get back up. I teach my daughter, she's a big part of my life, and something I'm really proud of. It's like ever since she was a little girl, I always tell her, finish what you start. Since I have videos of her at 3-4 years old, and we're watching videos, and she goes, Daddy, it says, finish what you start. And I go, you like that, baby? She's like, yeah, finish what you start, Daddy. So that, sometimes, you have challenging days. I'm not saying that you won't have challenging days as an entrepreneur. It's normal to have challenging days. But I think that in the back of my head, hey, finish what you start.
Of course.
And that and being grateful a lot of times is, it's very important to have an attitude of gratitude, because, if you really think back, we're living in just such an amazing opportunity down here. And I think about other people in other countries. It's just we're blessed.
Well, talking about living down here, what does Puro 956 mean to you?
I think Puro 956 is just really a flagship for like who we are as a people, I think the Valley is just so beautiful and it's so unique, and I'm proud to be from the 956. Anywhere where I go, like I tell them, hey, I'm from the Rio Grande Valley, and I go, when people ask me, well, where's that? We're by the border. We could cross the border anytime. We love to have a good time. It's just. The Valley's special,
Nice.
Yeah, I've traveled a lot, all over, a lot of different places in the United States. I've gone overseas, and I'm proud to say that I'm from the Rio Grande Valley.
Nice. I love that. Yeah, because a lot of people have different opinions about it's. I guess it's a very polarizing subject, defining what the valley is all about, because there's some people that think differently. But I'm glad that you're for it. Is there anything that you have on your mind that you'd like to share with people that are watching, listening? Anything you like to express?
I just think that, doing things like this, like your podcast and being in Cuadros corner, right?
Yeah.
Uh, it's great. I would challenge everybody to just do something that makes them feel uncomfortable. I think that's one thing that could all help us grow, and it's something that I strive to do. And I try to teach is do something that's going to make you feel uncomfortable, because that's going to give you growth. There's no growth without pain. And if you push yourself little by little, you're going to be amazed where you're going to be 6 months down the road, 12 months down the road, 10 years down the road. And one movie that makes me think of this is, you ever seen Yes Man? With Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey started off as
Saying no to everything.
miserable, as a miserable person. But just him saying yes and yes and yes and stacking his yeses.
Yeah.
The person that he becomes is just totally different.
Amazing.
Different adventures, different things that happen in his life, and I think that's the key, is just be open minded. Don't be afraid, to try things new, and really just go out there and enjoy life, because life is wonderful.
Nice. Love it. Well, I hope we didn't make you too uncomfortable here in Cuadros' Corner. I want to thank you for making the time out of your busy schedule to, because I know I've been in the car with you where we're going to appointments or meetings or whatever, and I told you the other day, your car, when we're driving, your car feels like a call center. The people are calling you all the time. So, thank you for coming over and sitting down and talking to us a little bit about your life.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Anytime. And this is, my hat's off to you for this podcast. It's really great.
Awesome. So, last moment we have here. Is there anything else you'd like to say? Where can people find you? Anything regarding
so
Solrex?
I'm in social media, Mario Enzo Cantu. That's my handle pretty much for anything. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Solrex Energy is my company. We have Instagram, all the same platforms, right? So we're out there looking to make a difference. Anybody that is looking for renewable energy and looking to solve the problems that we have, by all means, reach out to us. If you just want to ask a question, no question is a dumb question. Really, we want to be out there and help the community learn about solar and really, really do good things with everything that's going on. So
it's always sunny in Solrex.
It's always sunny in Solrex. So yeah, love it. Thank you guys. Thank you for having me again, Carlos. And it's always, the future's bright at Solrex, right? The future's bright at Solrex. So if you're looking to be a part of Solrex, that's another thing. We're looking to bring some people on board too.
Invite them.
Yeah. So if you want a great career path, you want to challenge yourself to do solar, and by all means, apply. We're looking for some good people. Not looking for everybody, but we are looking for the right people.
What's the number one thing that you look for in people when you're trying to, recruit them for Solrex?
I think it's perseverance, and I ask them a lot of times is what's been your most challenging thing that you've ever done, and how do you resolve that? Because like I said, rejection is one thing that people don't like,
Yeah, nobody likes to be rejected.
Nobody likes to be rejected, Some people would rather take a bullet than to get a no,
Yeah, that's true.
So, but I think that's really what it comes down to, is embracing it, and just like I said, every no gets you one step closer to a yes, and makes you one day better than the day you were before.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for saying yes
to
Cuadros' Corner.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.